Unscripted.
Unshackled.
Uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for mature audiences only.
It's Miguel Fuller.
Holly O'Connor.
And Scotty the Body.
It's the Miguel and Holly Uncensored podcast.
Only on Hot 101.5.
Hello and welcome to 2022.
Yes.
Yes, girl, we are here. And before we get into everything, there's nowhere for me to put this on the show or the podcast. I'm telling a long story.
Oh.
A little behind the scenes. You know how like on the podcast and the show, we tell you stories from our lives. Well, a lot of us do it in different ways where like when something happens in your life, you're like, ooh, let me write this down.
Yeah.
And I use like my little notes on my phone.
Yeah.
Where I just have like a note of all the stuff that happens.
Yeah.
Well, it's sometimes what's fun is trying to figure out what I meant when I was drunk.
Oh, geez.
Same. Or, yeah. Sometimes I only wrote half a thought and then I'm like,
What did that mean?
what? Help me help you.
So I've been saving this for the podcast all morning when I was like going through my phone, like to get stuff for like blogs this morning and topics. And I was like, what? Because I hadn't looked at my phone since New Year's Eve, or like, you know, I add stuff and then I don't look at it
Yeah.
and go through it until I'm like putting the show together.
Yeah, yeah. Do you
And
have like one note that says like,
Yeah, it's
Blogs
like
or
literally
con-
says life stuff for show.
Life
Yeah.
stuff.
For show.
I have a one note that just says blogs and I've
Yeah.
kept like a running, I just type it in, put a space and then go.
Exactly. This is what I wrote on New Year's. Security guy at cocktail asked if I had a sandwich under my hat on New Year's.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
What the fuck happened on New Year's?
No, you don't remember that?
I don't remember.
Did you have a sandwich?
I don't know.
Did it look like you had a sandwich?
I guess.
Was he hungry?
Should you have brought him a sandwich?
Maybe I should have. Maybe there wasn't a cover. I don't know.
Did it not fit very well? It looked like you were harboring meat and cheese and bread.
I was like, what happened on New Year's where I was like,
Security.
You're like, hold on.
security asked at cocktail if I had a sandwich under my hat.
You're like, I can't wait to talk. Okay, really quick. That is the best. I have these things where I'm inebriated in some way
Yes.
and I type something that I'm like, this is hilarious. I'm like, I
Yes.
cannot wait to talk about this during vlog. And then you pull it out like that day because you're like, oh, I need a blog. Let me. And it's something like so stupid. No one should ever talk about it, let alone on a platform like the radio. And I'm just like,
oh, God.
I'm like, damn it. Because I'm like, I didn't even plan for anything else because
No.
I knew that I had
I had
something.
That was
Something.
it.
And when I looked at it, it said back to me, no, you don't.
No, that's it.
Like, what? Come
I feel
on.
like that'd be a fun segment on the podcast. Like, what was on the cutting room floor that you thought was great that you had on your phone, but you were like, we can't talk about that on the radio, but on the podcast, yes. The cutting room floor.
All right. Because I just delete them because I'm like,
Oh, my God.
this is stupid.
Now
So
you got to save it.
maybe now we save like drunk thoughts
I love it.
and that'll be a podcast that's could have been radio blogs, but wasn't good
The
enough.
cutting room floor. Got it. All right. Anyway, so there was nowhere to put that. I just wanted to. I
You
just-
just made something up.
Yeah, I know.
I want to know about it.
Oh gosh. So I feel like we had so much. It's always when you have a first show back after being away for 2 weeks, there's like so much in your life that happened that it's hard to just like get it all out
Yeah.
in a show or even over the week because there's so much other stuff we have to do on the show.
Difficult to wrap it all up.
So how was everybody's 2 weeks? Because I saw each of you once.
Yeah.
We all had dinner, and I
Yeah.
think I didn't see anybody else outside of that.
Neither did I.
Yeah, I was locked.
We were
away.
like, bye.
see you later, girl. Bye.
No,
Holly.
it was good. Me? So it was good. It was good. I mean, overall, just it was good. We didn't go anywhere really. We didn't do anything. Let me try and hit some highlights. So we got done here like December 17th. And then that weekend, my daughter, Maya, who is 8, had a dance recital. And that was a very hectic weekend. She did great, though. It was beautiful. And then that was the same weekend that I surprised her with tickets to go see the Nutcracker, which was perfect
Yes.
because like we got to go, she had her ballet recital. And then that next day we got to go see the ballet, the Nutcracker at the Stress Center. And she is like, I don't know. what trait this is necessarily, but it's so interesting to like continue to meet my kid
Mm.
because like we got the seats that I had gotten us. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to see very well. And I assured her, I'm like, have you ever been to the theater? Because I promise you, these seats that I got, there's going to be a great view right from where we're sitting. And she's like, because when you enter the theater, and I think this is what throws her off,
Theater.
the curtain. I mean, if you haven't been in a while, I don't blame you. I haven't been since way before COVID. So the curtain is gigantic. If you've ever been to the Strass Theater, it's like ceiling to the stage, like so many dozens and maybe hundreds of feet.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And then there's the stage, and it looks larger than life. And she's like, I don't understand. It's not. We're not. And she's like freaking out. And I'm like,
oh no,
And she's like, you did the worst job. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, you need to calm down right now. And I know that nobody calms down.
I would have such a hard time as a parent. I'm gonna snatch your ass up.
No, but you can't because that's not a helpful lesson.
I know.
I'm like, okay. I'm like, I know that you're freaking out right now. And I understand why you might be, but I'm going to have to ask you to hold off on this judgment until it starts. And then we'll see what you think. It starts. Giant curtain goes up. From where we're sitting, she has a nearly perfect view of everything. And she goes, this is great. I'm like, okay, now because I always try to do lessons. And so I feel like it's getting a little old that mom's like, now what was the lesson? So I'm like, okay, so just so you know, you were having a freak out and you felt really big feelings, but I told you we need to wait to see what it was going to be like before you started freaking out prematurely. She goes, okay. So that happened.
I mean, but isn't there a little petty part of you that wants to be a little smug and be like, told you so, bitch?
Yeah. Do I?
Okay.
Yeah.
I just
your daughter 8?
Because yes, I know obviously she's 8. You're teaching her these lessons and you have to understand it. And I get it. But you're still a human.
Yeah.
And there's just a little part of you that's want to be like,
oh, told you so. Yeah. But and it happens actually frequently. Because there was something else that happened. I don't remember what this one was, but I do remember that at the outcome of it, I almost said out loud, I told you. And I had to be like, what? Because you know what kids don't like, especially as they get into like preteen and teen years? A parent that's like, I told you so.
Absolutely. That would be the worst thing
like,
to
think
say.
about your mom think about you as like a preteen era. And your mom smugly being like, I told you so. Like, as a child, you'd have like burning anger. And then you would also, it damages the relationship because I would, just based on my relationship with my mom, like more the interactions go and the parent is kind of like I'm the all-knowing, what my way goes, my way is the highway. You need to fix yourself to get along with what I'm doing. Like the more resentment builds and the less I'm telling her.
Yeah.
So it's
true.
A relearning yourself process and and like a constant parenting learning process.
But I just like to tap into
the smugness.
Yeah.
It's
just that's a
petty.
fun place to be sometimes.
It's there. So we had a good break. It was good.
Great.
Speaking of my mom, I just absolutely snapped with her and I realized that she's not well. Like I realized that. And I think I had talked about this maybe like a month or so ago. I was like dealing with caregiver burnout and like what happens during burnout? We lose the best parts of us. Like you lose your empathy, your patience, compassion, caring, whatever it is that are good qualities, you lose them and it's replaced with resentment, anger, hurt. And so there's only so much. And I mean, I've tried several different outlets and like it got to just a breaking point where something happened at 6:30 in the morning on one of our days off.
Ooh.
At which time I was not awake yet, but then I was real quick later. And I lost it. And I'm not proud of that. I'm not saying it like, hey, yay, look at me for breaking. But it just, going back to your point, Miguel, I'm human.
Yeah.
So I broke. And that was, I believe it actually was New Year's Eve day. And so I broke fully. I won't even get into like, I don't know if I need to get into all the details, but the relationship that like I had for the last few years with my mom, where it's very much like the caregiver role of whatnot. That whole thing is like was also very strongly tied to codependency and people pleasing because, and this is what makes it so difficult to caregive a parent who may have raised you to have some toxic traits. As you're going through an evolution of learning about yourself and unlearning the bad behaviors that gave you your toxic traits, it becomes more and more difficult to interact with that person in the same capacity because they're not changing,
Right.
but you are.
Mhm.
And
Right.
as you grow in your journey of knowledge about yourself, you put up with less shit that was harmful to you to begin with. So I snapped, and it was a good thing, although, and I don't even feel that bad because I'm pretty sure she has forgotten like most of it and forgotten like the main points. She never even understood why I was fully mad, and she won't.
Yeah.
And she definitely doesn't get it. She gets very small snippets of it, but I was just like, I'm doing this to myself. Like, I have to stop. So I did. And like we had a really good meeting about moving forward this year, about looking into placing her in an assisted living facility of some sort, which is going to be ultimately better for her to get care that she actually needs
Right.
by caregivers that are trained for that type of thing.
Mm.
And mental health wise, better for my entire family.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it was sort of a breakthrough, and it's a lot. That's why, like, I always remember we had a radio coach once because I've been through, like, as all of us have, I might add, not me alone. All of us have been through some sort of trauma. And one of the things that it's a weird back and forth is, how often and how much and do you share it on the radio? Because that's what we do on the radio. We talk about our personal lives. Then there's always a thing about there's a difference between personal and private. So that you have to figure out. But then this piece of advice that I got from our former radio coach was, don't show the wound, show the scar. If you're going to talk about something traumatic or very heavy in your personal life, don't do it necessarily while it's fresh and you're bleeding from it.
Absolutely.
Because it's actually too much for you listening, because you're not my therapist, right? You're not coming to this to try to take on my burden, and I certainly would never assume to put it on you. So I go through it, any of us go through it, and then if we do choose to talk about it at a later point, you're showing the scar, you're showing what you went through, and maybe even to top it off, a lesson that you learned along the way.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's helpful to you, the listener. Like me dumping all of the stuff. Yes, this is partly for what the podcast is for, but as I'm thinking about it, like some of the heavy stuff, first of all, maybe triggering for somebody. And also, I don't want you to feel like you have to be my therapist. I have one. So it was good, though. I think overall it was a good step forward for myself mentally, psychologically, and just getting my ducks in a row for that. So that, and then overall it was like just a great time with my boyfriend, my person, my partner in life, and my daughter, who had a great break. We got to do all kinds of fun things and just like go out in nature and stuff. So overall, like I said, good.
Scott?
Mine was good. Mine was all over the page. I was traveling a lot. As soon as we kind of went on break, I think I DJ'd one wedding, and then I was like, I'm out of here. And so I flew over to Washington, D.C., where my girlfriend's family lives, a lot of her family. I've met some. I met her parents, and I met like an uncle and an aunt and some cousins. Yeah, cousins. And they live here in Florida, but there's a whole other side of the family that lives in Washington, D.C., over in Maryland. So I went over there. I got to visit the rest of the family, which was really good, actually. There was a lot of good connections made, good conversations had. I did get the heavy hitter questions of like, what am I doing and what is my plan and all this stuff. But I did walk away feeling like I was connected to the group. So that was very refreshing.
That's awesome.
When you say what's your plan, do they mean like with your girlfriend Monica, or like for your personal work,
like your life?
I think a little bit more of both. Like, I was kind of joking around, but like my plan for my career, but also it was really cool to see like just how they talked about me with the family all around, like as part of the family. Like even at the end of it, I was leaving and they gave me gifts. Like they weren't doing gifts that year, I guess. Some families like don't always do gifts, but literally they're like, all right, because I was about to leave the next day. They're like, hey, we just got you a couple things. And like, it was so nice. I was just opening gifts in front of everybody. I was like, stop. I'm literally meeting some of y'all for the first time.
Oh, that's awesome though. And you are awkward about receiving gifts anyway. So
So
how did you
awkward.
feel about that?
Well, I'm trying to do a thing where I just dive in and I don't think about it too much. I'm like, you know what? You know what's putting the awkwardness on it? Me being awkward about it. So I'm just going to go ahead and open it. I'm going to receive it. I'm going to say thank you and I'm going to move on. And so I did. So I opened it up. I said thank you. I really appreciated the gifts and then I moved on. So it was really cool. And that was a really nice trip. I did also get to see a lot of cool new things because one of my things that I like to do in life is just kind of travel and check out new locations and see what this earth has for us.
Yeah.
And I got to check out Washington, D.C., which was really cool. A lot of the cool monuments and all the things history-wise, which is really nice. And then I flew literally directly into North Carolina, where my family lives. And I got to spend some time with, family, but also new family members because my cousin had kids. Well, has a newborn. I met one already, but now she's starting to recognize me, which is really cool, and know who I am. And that's the goal of why I visit so much. I'm like, I want you to at least like know who I am.
Yeah.
Because I'm in your family, but
Mhm.
growing up, it's been so hard because I've lived in Florida. They lived in North Carolina, and I have a very small family. And so it would be like once a year, maybe. And if you happen to miss that, you're bam, 2 years. And with kids growing up,
Oh,
they
it's
don't have
fast.
any idea who you are if you don't come for a year in a row.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
really it is on you. If you want that, if you want them to know you and you want a relationship with them, you have to do it.
Yeah, and so that's what I did. I actually stayed at my cousin's house, which was really nice. And they had a nice house, and I got to hang out with the newborn. Dope. He won't remember it. That's cool. but
How
I
old was
will.
this newborn?
4 months.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I just want to hold a baby.
That's everyone says. I don't like holding other kids. I think when I have my own, I'm gonna like love holding my kid, but I feel so scared holding somebody else's kid.
Because you haven't had a kid yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Once
okay,
you
F
have a
that.
kid, you're going to love holding your kid, and then you won't mind holding other people's kids because there's always this innate fear that you're going to do something to damage
Yeah.
this baby, especially, I don't know, maybe dudes in general, because it's like very foreign, maybe, unless you're raised with lots of like small
Mm-mm.
children.
See, I was a small child until these kids came into the life.
Yeah. So I understand the fear that something bad is going to happen, but they're so like,
But there was a couple times though, I did make some growing steps of like holding the kid, of like just having him stand up on my lap, and like I would like have him hold my finger. It was cute. And I would talk to the little dude. It was super sweet. So that trip was really nice because like, you sometimes when I go over there, depending on the like political climate in our country, like it can be a little stressful for me because it's like just me, little old me with my views. And then, everybody else has their own views.
Are they very conservative?
Yes. And so sometimes it's been very difficult being the lone soldier over here, just like, I don't want to talk about this. Really?
Did they try to bring up politics?
No, not really. Not this time, which was really refreshing. Like that was one of the good things about it. Like even I was talking to some other family members, like, no, that's really nice that it really didn't get brought up because I've learned now that I've gotten older, like I just don't say anything. Like that's my role. Like I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to react. I'm not going to say any of my input because one, it doesn't go anywhere. Like we're never going to come to the end and be like, hey, high five, we got on similar paths. No.
yeah,
we
well,
won't.
no, neither one of you was convincing the one to come to the other side.
Exactly.
In like a perfect world, you could maybe share your views and then come to like okay, I see where you're coming from, or like I see where you're coming from, but we're obviously going to stand on different sides.
Yeah,
But that's in a perfect world.
that's
so
in a
We're
perfect
not living
world.
in that time right now.
Well, I had like years ago, I had a traumatic experience with one of these conversations where I fed into it. I was like, you know what, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to be an adult because I know my research. And it just, I literally was about to just leave. And I was like, I can't, like, I love y'all. Like, I'm not about to like leave during the holidays.
Like, did
And-
you yell?
Oh yeah, I screamed. I screamed at my grandparents.
Oh.
You don't
What?
scream at your grandparents.
Oh
Like,
my
Yeah,
god!
that's
I was
tough.
like crying. Like I was so upset. So from that moment on, I decided I was never going to have that conversation again because it didn't do anything. And now I walked away with a little traumatic scar.
When did that happen?
That was a couple years ago.
I remember.
2018.
I remember that.
Yeah, like it was rough. It was not a good time period. And I wish it wouldn't have happened. But I did learn the lesson of like, you know what? I really hope the conversation never goes there again. And I hope that I could just go there and enjoy each other's time and presence.
Yeah.
Like we don't have to have those, like there's no need.
Have y'all ever talked about that happening?
No.
What is kind of just moved on and didn't acknowledge it
No,
after
because
that?
it was just a rough time. Like what, like my grandma, like she likes to just talk about things, but it kept going in a circle. And it was my mom, my grandma, and me. And so there's things that were said, and I just disagree. And I was like, well, I don't agree. And My problem is, and I think a lot of people go through this, like if we're going to discuss, like you have to be able to at least acknowledge my view. Don't just discredit it. Don't act like it's not relevant to the conversation. But it was happening over and over, and it built and built. And there's other things said that I was so far against from the view that I was like, I can't believe this. Like, I
Yeah.
can't believe
Mhm.
that we see so far away from each other. And I love you. You're my family. But we are as far opposite as possible in this situation.
Mm.
And that was really hard. That was a really hard grown up adult moment to realize. I was like, oh my God, like we are not the same in this capacity right now.
Yeah.
Like same family, but different walks of life.
Yeah.
That was difficult. And those were those moments.
But I think the growth here is that you're able to still visit and still have relationships, because life is more like, it sucks and it's really hard when your values don't align,
Yeah.
right,
Right.
with your family, but you do align on, I don't know, other things,
Yeah.
other family type stuff where you're like, I would like you in my life. And to have to be forced to be in a position of acknowledging that those things are going to be different, but you're both choosing to not just simply cut the other person out of your life.
Yeah.
That's a hard type of like choice to make, an adulty thing to do.
Well, I think that this year was really about that, because I have a small family, like I said. And
Yeah.
so I don't want to cut anybody out, and I don't want to not visit because of these reasons, because of the heavy political climate that sometimes we get into.
Mhm.
Because if I cut them out, then it's like literally like it's my dad, I, my brother, and my aunt. It's like 4 of us. I'm like, what the bleep? I can't cut a whole section of the family out. Like, I love y'all. I don't want to visit. And so to go there this past year, not really have any of those things get brought up, learn how to navigate it, like that was good. And so like I left this trip, I was like, I feel better. Like it was one of the times I really walked away like,
Yeah.
all right, I think I'm back on a good track here. I think I got some good momentum looking forward to the next trip. Because it is sometimes like you go into it, you're like, I want to visit because I love y'all, but I'm scared of the conversations that are going to be brought up.
Yeah, it's tough.
And I think it did help actually staying at my cousin's and like, because they're younger and they have kids and like the conversation just doesn't go there.
Yeah.
Like it's just no need to. We have
Yeah.
other things on our mind. And so
Mm.
that part was really nice. And so I
Yes.
got back.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I'm glad that went that way for you.
It built good momentum. And so especially, going to make some more plans to travel over there in the next year, especially because my grandparents are getting older. So that's on top of it. But then I got back and it was good. I had some good relaxing days just with the girlfriend. New Year's Eve plans. We hung out and just got to relax. And I'm trying to think if we did anything crazy. Nothing crazy when I got back. But then I went home and visited my dad over in Vero for a couple of days. And that was it.
Sounds like a fun time.
It was. I think, I'm excited for the days when it's not so much traveling around, but it's hard right now with like just because it takes a lot of time. And this might be, I don't know I'm going to put this in the show notes, but when you're traveling to see family, it's expensive. How do you handle that when you're the only one traveling?
What do you mean?
My girlfriend and I had this question, like, do family members, if they're all in one location and you want to visit,
Mhm.
is there a way for them to pitch in and get you there?
Oh, like to pay
Food
for
for
a
thoughts.
plane ticket or something?
Well, especially if you're the only one visiting or you're the only one that ever visits, and it's hard, like, hey, no discredit because it's harder for other family members to visit. Let's say, if, you have kids and stuff like that. Like, is that on the table? Do some families do that where they're like, hey, we're all going to throw in $20 to get, Jamie or Scott over to Texas? I don't know.
I don't know. My family's never offered to pay for shit.
And that's never been something. Like, I mean, my family always kind of gives me like the high five, like maybe a couple bills in the hand. And it's like that part I'm very appreciative. But I'm just talking bigger picture here because my girlfriend has the same question because all of her family up in Maryland. But we have to buy the tickets to go there, So that part's kind of tricky. Because obviously we want to visit, but like every year it's just getting more expensive. Like I dropped some money this year going from Maryland to North Carolina, back here to Tampa.
Yeah.
It was tough.
Yeah. I was going to say, because I really did want to visit my family in Cleveland. And then we talked about this on the air. Like before Thanksgiving, I got a text that was like polite, but like, we're not seeing anybody because of COVID. So if you come here, we're not going to see you. I was like, well, then why not? Like,
Yeah.
why would I
Why
go?
Just-
And I'm like, don't worry, it's expensive anyway, so I'm good. Which, I mean, I get it. It was so awkward. I guess there's no nice way to put it. But yeah, so I'm like, well, I'm not gonna. It was a lot of money to get multiple plane tickets to try to get up there, and I'm like, how do you reconcile that? Maybe at some point there's like a dinner, and like they pay for the dinner.
Yeah, maybe
I
that.
just got pissed off at my dad, actually. Sorry. Anyway.
Well, I was just thinking, like, maybe that's going to be a conversation in the future because, like, obviously, if you want family members to visit, like, maybe there's a way to just kind of help out. Like, I don't know. Everybody gets together and, like, $10-20. Like, that adds up. That's like one ticket there. You're like, oh, now it's not so stressful to get over there. Because obviously, like I said earlier, if you don't go that 1 year to save money, who knows what you're missing in family? That could be, God, the sadder side, that could be the last time you see some family members.
I know.
That could be the time where it's like things change in the family. So those trips are crucial. It's hard to get over there when you're the only one traveling. It was just a thought that my girlfriend and I had over the weekend.
Interesting.
I have a hard time connecting with that because my family is like not like that's why I rarely go home, because I learned a long time ago in college when I didn't have a nickel to rub together. And I was like, well, I'm spending gas money to come up here. And everyone was like, so good to see you. How's college? And I just got super bitter about it because I was putting myself through college. And then when they would be like, are you coming home for Thanksgiving or Christmas? And I'm like, is anybody going to help? So that's why in college, I spent a lot of time just working at radio stations. And when I was working part-time, because I was like, I'm sorry, I just don't have the money. And so now, just because one of those situations where you're in a different situation, and like with my fiance, his family they're super close, like they do, like his parents will be like, oh, well, if y'all are flying, we'll get one of your flights or something like that. And so they do offer to help because they want to see him and us.
I guess in
so,
some families it is a thing.
That's what I was more so curious
never
about.
heard of it in
Right.
my
Okay,
family.
not in either. And again, like my family does help me out in a lot of ways, but I was just curious for other families. Like, is that a thing? If you're the one that's moved out, but they want you to come in for the holidays instead, like, as I think the bigger conversation was like, if family members get mad that you don't visit, but aren't there to like help you out to visit, like, where does that go? Like, who takes charge of that?
That's tough.
How do you visit if nobody's going to
know.
help you out and you can't pay, but they're going to get mad if you don't visit?
I feel like I'm in a really weird space with family stuff right now because like dealing with the wedding coming up, and my mom was telling me that there was a family member of mine that's not coming to the wedding that I thought I was like closer with, or there was a couple of them actually. And when because my mom was way more offended that they weren't coming than I was like, girl, it's less money that I got to pay for, so that's fine. And she was just like, we literally don't ask y'all to do shit. And we're saying, come to this major life event. And especially like as a gay man, we're probably not going to have any kids. So there's not going to be any other things in my life that we would all get together for.
Yeah.
And so she's just like very disappointed.
Well, why are they not coming?
Just bullshit excuses like, oh, well, it's just money's kind of crazy. Or I was like, well, you can stay with me in a hotel room.
Yeah.
Like, there's ways to work around it, it sounds
right.
like.
And it just, for her, my mom just feels like I've always bent over backwards to make things work, to, meet you halfway.
Yeah.
And that there's not even like a, hey, can we figure something out?
Yeah. It's not. Yeah. And
is.
I think it really does, unfortunately, showcase how much people really care to put thought into things.
What I fear a lot, and I thought a lot about it this weekend, because I went through like actually a couple of days, because of course, when you're drinking, the emotions come out, where I was reflecting a lot about my grandmother and like where I am in my life right now, and like how she sacrificed so much to get me here, and I wish she could see some of the fruits of her labor. But I was just thinking that like when my mom passes away, I just feel like I will lose like my family, because I just feel like if it weren't for my mom, there's just such a like thin thread keeping us together. Because like ever since college, when those moments happened, when I was just kind of like, all right, well, I just don't really feel any connection or love coming your way outside of the very generic weather conversations and how's school and into my 20s, like how's work going. Other than that, I just sit there. Um, but I can just see like after college or when that time comes that I'm just kind of like, well, what do we like? That's the thing about family that I'm like really seeing Abe go through it with his family and seeing how close they are and how like they just have such a deep, deep love for each other that it sometimes makes me uncomfortable because I'm like, I don't understand that
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just like one of his family members. She is just, I said this on the air this morning. She can't come to the wedding because she's older. She's really afraid of COVID. And like, she was like in tears saying that she just was too afraid to come. And I was like, meanwhile, my family's like, girl,
Things.
I got stuff,
Man, you know,
stuff.
things.
And so when you see the differences, it's just hard for me as someone who already like probably a little bit of psychopath. Like I disassociate with stuff really easily once it's been so many years removed from being around my family.
Yeah.
That I'm just like, well, girl, if you're not gonna try,
Well, isn't that part of like, there's a way of like a toxic relationship where it's like, you know, if you're always going to put in the work, if you're never going to like, if somebody else in the relationship is never going to reach out or try to make it work, then at a certain point, and that's the tough thing with family. It's like, even
Mhm.
family, you got to be able to be like, you know what? Like, you're not putting work into this relationship as much as I am. And so I'm not going to keep bending over backwards and letting my mental state like decrease if you're not going to be willing to step to the plate. And that's kind of how I feel with situations like that too. It's like, if you're not even going to willing to try to come to my wedding or try to come to this event or try to call me any now and then, like, how much more could I try for you? Because obviously I have in the past and it hasn't gone anywhere. And so it's like, when's your cutoff point?
right.
And that's where it gets murky with family, because family, quote unquote family, but that's why we find so many different families and other things that may not be blood.
Right. No,
Yeah.
this is true.
It's
Absolutely.
true. And people have such different experiences in families. And even people with like, you know, there's like all these, there's like, for example, Miguel, there's like what you've got, then there's someone, I feel like what you have, I'm somewhere in the middle between like what you have and like what Abe has, because I don't have what Abe has.
Mhm.
But I feel like if I, like if a cousin of mine was getting married, of course we would go. God, my brother's getting married. And
Right.
I'm assuming like Auntie Pearl and the cousins will go.
Mhm.
But in the off chance they don't, that puts me back in like where your camp is. So it's like touch and go. So there's all these
Mhm.
variable on the spectrum of closeness of families, where it's like I don't reach out to them all the time,
Right.
but I do on their birthday, or I send a Christmas card or something just to like, hey, I'm still here. I'm not checking in. Rarely am I checking in,
Right.
but I'll like, you know, leave a note on Instagram. Oh, the boys are looking cute, whatever.
Mhm.
So it's those types of any type of like reaching out, and your family doesn't do it. Like, I don't know if you do it, and I don't know if you can start doing it with some of the younger cousins. Like, I know you've got like some younger cousins that are around your age.
Mhm.
And if you could just, even at the holidays, like get their addresses together and like just do a card or something similar, like a small gesture, but a gesture nonetheless. And maybe that would prompt them to do that reach back out to you. And it becomes maybe not a relationship like Abe's family has, but something that is stronger than just when your mom dies, you'll have no family.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you to do necessarily. Like, do
Yeah.
you do that, or do you just say fuck it?
I mean, and that's where the hard part where I am. Like I was thinking about it and reflecting on just like what's to come in the future. Like and I think what's happening is that as we're getting closer to the wedding, like out of all the like, oh, it's a wedding and it's a party and it's fun and you're planning and there's cake and food and all this stuff. Like I'm really taking time to like fully digest and understand what it means to get married and to become one. And I feel like, especially for someone who I never saw my mom in a long-term relationship.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother was like never with someone most of my life. So like I haven't had a lot of examples of like the sanctity of marriage and what it means and the reverence of it. And so I feel like I'm coming into that space. And when I'm thinking about becoming one with him and, taking on his last name and truly understanding what it means to become a part of his family, there's just like a small part of me that's fearful that like life happens, that all of a sudden, like we're married and we're going to Buffalo every Christmas now because, my mom is like, "Ooh, I'll go to Buffalo with y'all too and meet Abe's," because I had so much fun with Abe's family.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, I haven't talked to cousins and uncles and aunts in 4 years,
Mhm.
And so just a little fearful that life will start to happen and that touch point will slowly not be there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
It
think
kind of gets less and less. Since I've
absolutely.
been living in Florida, I don't even know. Probably 2 years ago was the last time I saw any of those people,
Mm,
and it's like I called them once when my mom was having an absolute meltdown and I was having a meltdown. This was like a year and a half or 2 years ago, and it's like they felt sympathy, but then that was that.
right.
Like
Yeah.
after that phone call, it's like, well, they can't help.
Any follow-up?
What? No, there was no follow up because they got
Right.
their own problems.
Right.
And I know that they have their own problems, but I'm not really invested because I got my own problems. But I also have my own family now here too.
No.
Right.
So it is true, coming from someone who has been married before. When you do get married, you sort of form your own new family.
Mm.
And you can take part in one or the other or both your original nuclear family's things.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since Abe's family has such a close-knit bond.
Yeah.
Right.
That'll be great. But also there will be y'all, I forgot how to talk.
Girl, it's first day back. We're still learning. We're getting on the bike.
There will be things that you and Abe do that are just the two of you
Yeah.
that become your own family traditions.
Mm. Right.
Because you're now a family that can visit and go back to your family, his family, but you're now also like the unit on your own to start doing your own things. But I see where you are like, I don't want to lose my whole blood relatives,
Right.
but how much does it matter to you? Is it matter enough to like do that thing where you maybe reach out to some younger cousins or no?
Right.
I don't know. It's
And
tough.
And I guess the bigger question too that I'm sort of tiptoeing around is like, what is family?
Ah, what a good question.
So I
Yeah.
think that's
a
what
lot of
I
people
come
have tried to answer that, and I'm not sure I've ever read a great anything about it.
right. And I think that's what I've sort of like not said it out loud because I'm like, what is family? And there are different, like you said, definitions of it and what it means to me. I have different, and that was sort of the fun part about putting the seating chart together for the wedding is like we both, Abe and I, have different, outside of like our blood family, we both have different pockets of little families that we've created in the places that we've lived
Yeah.
that are all going to come together. And so like I got to put together like the Panama City table from like the Panama City gays, that Holly, you knew when we
Yeah.
lived there together.
Yeah.
And then like the Tampa gays. And then I have like my college gays, and so it's like these little families. And if I were to ask myself, what does family mean when it comes to my Panama City gays? Well, those are the gays that when we were all in our 20s and we were struggling and we were in Panama City coming up and we were like going out every weekend and had all these crazy experiences together. And so we have those memories to fall back on and to reminisce and say, girl, look how far we've made it. Look
Right.
how this is so awesome. Look at us. And we still hang out and do stuff together. Or
Keep in
if
touch.
one of us is in a bind, like I have some friends, I have one friend in particular that like when my cousin passed away, we were like really, really close and he was there for me a lot. So like if I'm ever having a night or a moment where I'm thinking about my cousin, I will like literally text my friend Cam a screenshot of the song that played at my cousin's funeral.
Mhm.
And he'll be like, girl, I know I'm here, whatever you need, I got you. Where it's like you have that sort of emotional connection, you depend on it, or vice versa. If he ever has some issues when it comes to his work or money stuff, he calls me, surprisingly, just for advice on stuff because we
Yeah.
both come from similar backgrounds. So I guess when I think of family, it's a mutual beneficial relationship of helping each other, and reminiscing over shared experiences from the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I answer that question about the different families that I have, and then I ask those questions about my blood family, those answers aren't great.
No, I know. I think you're not alone in that.
No.
I think you're not alone. And I wonder how much and how related, and I don't know, I got a little teary-eyed thinking about this. How closely related is that definition of family versus where does unconditional love factor in? And I think unconditional love is a phrase that gets tossed around. But like, if you truly think about what it means to have unconditional love for someone, that the number that you might have, the number of people with whom you might have unconditional love is probably pretty small.
Yeah,
Right.
boy, yeah.
Because all of us have different conditions
Absolutely.
on which we might no longer go all in for that person. And that's, I think, what's heartbreaking about blood family is that technically that should be sort of an unconditional love, because at the end of the day, you know you're related to that person.
Right.
But for so many blood families, there's so much trauma, and there's so much generational trauma or just personal life trauma or, issues that have come up, that love has become conditional on this, that, or the other. And could you truly reach out to a family member in a time of deep need, and would they be there for you? Conditionally or unconditionally? Do they love you enough for who you are as a person to get past what you've done, what the history that you have together, your preconceived notions of them, to say, I don't care, I got you. So I think they're tied. Absolutely.
No, it's true. Absolutely. I think when you dig down deep and you think about, who in your life, if you were in one of those situations where you really need help, like, I don't know if there's anybody in my family that I would call. Well, outside of my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about the last time when I went through something emotional where I was like truly just devastated because it was an emotional situation, but I was also drunk and I knew that I wasn't in a clear headspace to make right decisions. I called my mom and I called Holly.
Hi, I got you.
So like, well, there's the answer. Merry Christmas, everybody. It was a great break.
Yeah, I
much
did
fun.
do a lot of soul searching, so it was going to have to come out one way or the other
Girl,
today.
same, honey.
Yeah.
Same. But hey, this is what we had to do.
This is what makes us complex people.
Absolutely.
It is. And also, it's a year, I think every year should be a year of growth and understanding yourself and the boundaries that you set, and knowing the people that, if you're going to put time and energy into somebody, they should be giving it back too. You can't just be a one-way street in these relationships.
Well, because that leads to burnout and resentment and whatnot.
Absolutely.
And also, I had a chicken sandwich underneath my hat on New Year's Eve.
That's right.
A chicken sandwich or just a sandwich?
I think it was a chicken sandwich.
That would have come in clutch at like 12:01.
I mean, it was cocktail. So,
Burger?
by the way, I didn't get to talk about this when we did our drops, photo dumps.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I feel like I'm like,
I know. I don't even
I'm like
know.
about to hit E.
I
Like,
had
I'm
something
just
I was
like-
going to go do this afternoon. I cancel it.
Like, I can't.
I'm like, my brain's not used to this capacity.
I wanted to talk about this for a second, my photo dump, but we ran out of time. If you go to the Miguel and Holly Insta, when every Monday or when we come back from being out, we post photos from our weekends. And when we briefly go over it, I just loved at Cocktail St. Pete, the gay bar, their like main hostess and MC, Adriana Sparkle, who was at Miguel and Holly Live, who helped open the show for us.
Yes.
Because it's called Cocktail and they have like roosters and cocks
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
all around the business.
Yeah.
They, how they have on CNN, they used to like go to Key West and they'd have like this drag queen and Aqua. They'd put in a big red high heel
Mhm.
and then she would come down in it for like the ball drop or whatever
Mhm.
for New Year's Eve. Well, they said that they were going to have Adriana Sparkle come down in a big cock.
Oh,
It was great. I think they're going to like build a cock next year, but this year, because they've only been open for like 6 months.
yeah.
So they had her like basically scaling the wall with a guy dressed up in a chicken costume.
I'm like, what the actual F is happening in this photo?
It
And
was
is
like,
she safe?
they had a whole crew out there. Like they had all the harnesses and everything, but it was so entertaining. And at 11:59, when everybody had been drinking, that was probably the most entertaining New Year's ball drop or cock drop that I've ever seen. Seeing a drag queen scale the wall with her hair, and of course, bitch was graceful. She was graceful coming down that wall, but the chicken was kind of all over the place.
Well,
It was hilarious.
that is a good ass time.
It was. That was so
It's wild.
fun. It was great.
I love that.
So yeah, you can see that on the Miguel and Holly Insta. All right, well we're done.
Yep.
Uh,
I can't do anything else.
I gotta go home.
Yeah.
I gotta refill my tank.
Okay.
Scott,
Hey,
what's your social media?
that's Scott Tavlin. SCOTTTAVLIN.
Holly O'Connor.
Yes. Radio Holly on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram.
Mine is Miguel Fuller, MiguelFuller on TikTok, Instagram, all the wonderful places. And please leave us a 5-star rating. If you have not done so, please do it.
5-star though.
5-star. If it's not 5 stars, F off.
Yeah.
Also, I'm gonna start plugging this in. I'm gonna take a page from Scott's book and just plug my shit.
That's right.
That's because, girl, I made some money this Christmas holiday on Cameo.
Oh,
Girl, I got to give a shout out to Ariel Raymond, who had me do like 3 different cameos for family members for Christmas presents. And then I don't know, like if it I don't know how it happened. And I got like 4 more requests from listeners to do videos. So Holly and Scott, y'all should sign up for Cameo. I'll send you a link.
I just have a direct one. It's just Venmo. Scott-Tavlin. You can just write what you need from there and we can make it happen. No. This is more than video. I'll do a dance.
Oh man.
You can do a dance on Cameo. I'm just saying, you can do whatever you want.
I can do it in person.
No,
It
it was really cool. Like I felt like a true superstar when I was at a Christmas party and I got a Cameo request and I was like, y'all, do y'all have an office where I can go? I have to fulfill this Cameo request.
So ridiculous.
I can't.
You need a makeup
Can't do
person
it.
next.
Listen,
Can't do it.
it helped pay. Please believe I cashed that money out and we had to pay the florist. So that money went straight to the damn florist for the wedding. So thank you to everyone
That's
that
awesome
requested
for
a
you.
Cameo. So
Good.
if you want a personalized video from me on Cameo, just type in Miguel Fuller. All right. We'll see you all next time.